cutting-edge fields are very, very important and relevant. It helps humanity to make progress and step forward. My name is Boglatka. I study computer science with AI specializations, and I'm from Hungary.
I'm Ken. I'm studying atmospheric sciences, and I'm from Japan.
My name is Daniel, and I'm studying cybersecurity, and I'm from Austria.
My name is Ibrahim. I'm studying computer science, specifically artificial intelligence, and I'm from Egypt.
My name's Linda. I'm a PhD student in electrical engineering, and I'm from Ecuador.
Ever since I was a small child, I was fascinated about the new technology from the US.
Whether it's from a big company or a new groundbreaking research finding, the US was always involved in producing cutting-edge technologies. So wanting to study cutting-edge fields in the US, it was a no-brainer.
There's a huge potential in AI and applying it in different fields of our lives. I've been doing research in applying artificial intelligence, machine learning-based tools and software to aid diagnosis and personalized medicine, ultimately.
Studying in the US has given me the freedom to choose what I want because of the breadth of options available. And for me personally, my care goes towards creatives and using AI to give them the best tools to achieve their vision.
I'm studying atmospheric sciences. I use numerical models, many different kinds of simulations to predict and quantify the change in the climate.
I'm really excited about the field of cybersecurity. That means I try to find solutions for cutting-edge cybersecurity threats in the future, preserve the consumer's privacy while innovating and developing new software.
I wanted to find universities that had a strong research center in intelligent transportation. And my favorite part about studying the US is that everyone has this mindset of doing things better and improving technology.
In my opinion, the US is the best place to study cutting-edge fields because you have this hub of innovation that produces the technology we're going to use today and in the future.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's session. I'm very excited to welcome you all here, and I see there are a lot of you that are watching us live. I'm so thankful and so happy that you are guys appreciating our webinars and subscribing for them. My name is Alina Yakubov, and I'm representing Education USA Virtual. So we are here to offer you interesting webinars with interesting speakers about the application process for studies in the US. And today we are going to have our last webinar for September, and that's going to be dedicated to SAT test, one of the standardized tests you would need, and you consider it as an optional one for your application for studies in the US. And we have here our speaker, Matthew from College Board. So I would like him to introduce himself, and I would like him to start with his presentation, and I will give you the floor, Matthew. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Alina. It's my pleasure to be here with everybody. I'm going to give you guys a really hands-on tutorial today about the SAT. Why me? Well, my name is Matthew Chovanec, and I work for the College Board. And the College Board is the nonprofit organization based in the United States that makes the SAT test. And we have been making this test every year for over 100 years now, if you can believe it. And we've been in an organization for even longer than that. And just a couple of years ago, we had a huge change in the SAT. We made it a digital test, which is actually much better for everyone else, including you as students. But I want to show you a little bit about what that actually means for your studying and getting ready for it today. So we're going to go over a lot of information, but I also want to make sure we have time for your questions, because I could talk about the SAT all day long, but I want to answer your questions because that's what's actually important. I'm here to be useful to you. So what I'm going to do is not only share a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm actually going to show you a tutorial of the app, the Blue Book app that you'll need to both practice for the test and take the test. And then I'll show with you all of the best free resources that we offer, partially in partnership with our official partner, Khan Academy, to make sure that you have everything that you need to prepare and do really well on this exam. So when you apply to universities in the United States, you have this really strong piece in your application, along with everything else that you're working on. Okay, so let me share my screen. get things
Sure.
started.
Meanwhile, I can also add that you guys can add your questions during our chat. We also have some questions that we received before. So after Matthew will finish with his presentation, we will allow time answering them, and then we're going to focus on those that that we'll receive during this live. And I see that there are a bunch of them. You can also tell us, guys, from where are you? It's super interesting to know from where are you contacting us and how can we help you. So yes, we are super excited about that. Okay, so yeah, Matthew, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So I'll start out a little bit of giving you some information about what's been going on in the last few years in the United States. And that is that many universities had stopped requiring the SAT for admittance into their school, but now many are changing their policies back. So many of universities that you've maybe heard of, Dartmouth or Yale or Brown University, UT Austin is a large state school in the United States, in Texas. And that's actually where I went to graduate school. So that's near and dear to my heart, but they brought the test back. So the SAT, there had been a lot of talk about it not really being necessary if you're applying to schools in the United States. That is not the case. Many universities are now making it a requirement, and many more will find it very useful in judging your application. And the reason why is you can just see here, as you've probably been learning from the Education USA advisors, when you apply to most schools in the United States, you are doing a holistic admissions framework, which means all of these pieces of the puzzle are being put into your profile. How you did in your classes, what your own family's like, what country are you from, the letters of recommendation that you get from your counselor, and standardized test, i.e. the SAT, is a huge part of that. What it does is it gives some kind of universal context to the person looking at your application, saying like, okay, this student probably did a fantastic job they got A's in all of their classes. They went to Tbilisi Private High School. Cool. I don't know if Tbilisi Private High School that well. Is it a difficult school to get into? Is it one that has very rigorous courses? Does it provide kind of a really nice learning environment overall? Those are something that can be a little bit more challenging, but the thing that they have to put all of that in reference to is this SAT score, which students take from all over the world. And a score in Tbilisi is the same score as it is in Illinois. So that's just a really nice universal frame of reference that all universities have. So that's why it's really important for a lot of them. So you are thinking about taking the SAT. Here are the dates for students internationally to take the SAT. All around the world, you can see that we have one coming up in just a few days, next Saturday on October 5th. You will have already had to register for that, but you can take the next one in November and December. When we made the test digital, we added a lot of different options for students to be able to take it. So there's a nice mirror for you. What is on the SAT? You probably know this a little bit already, but I'm just going to go over some really quick details. It is made up of two main sections, and you can score between a 200 and an 800 on both of those sections. The one here is evidence-based reading and writing on the left, and the one on the right is math. Evidence-based reading and writing is any single type of text that you would see when you were an undergraduate in college. What do I mean by that? It's not going to be just grammar and vocabulary asking you what a bunch of strange, difficult English words is. No, it's going to be asking you to really work with a lot of texts, everything from poetry to science to social studies to politics to rhetorical essays. Anything that you could get in any one of your classes in college, that's the type of thing that we're going to be asking you to read. So I'll give you a little bit more detail about that in a second. But you have to think about this as just everything that goes into being a student who's doing a lot of reading at a school in the United States or in another country. And then the other part is math, and that math goes up to the level of what would be the equivalent of Algebra 2. So you do not need, there's no calculus on the SAT test, but there are all of the other components that you would see in Algebra 2. And that's a little bit more clear for a lot of students, international students, to see exactly what types of math are there. But we'll talk about exactly how to know what's on there and how to best study for it. So we recently, in the last few years, made this test digital, which helped us make it a much shorter test. Rather than being an over 3-hour slog, it is now a brisk 2-hour test. So it used to be 96 questions for the reading and writing, and now it's just 54, which made it go from 100 minutes down to 64. And likewise, for the math section, it's also a much shorter, going from 58 questions to 44 questions. How do we do this? How is this test able to be so much shorter now? The reason is that it's now a digital test. And each one of the sections, the math section and the reading and writing section, are made up of 2 parts, or what we call 2 modules. So in the first module, you will have a series of different questions asked of you. Easy questions, medium questions, hard questions, a broad mix. Based on how you do in that first section, you're going to get more targeted questions, more the ones that are appropriate for your level. So rather than us having to ask you a mix of questions throughout the entire test, now we're just going to ask you during the first part, and then we'll get a much better idea of where you are at in general to then focus in and get a really more specific student score once you've done that. Okay, I'm happy to answer any questions about this, but the most common question is, okay, well, how about I not do very well on the first module so that I get easier questions in the second module and then answer those all really, really well? Don't do that. That is not going to give you any advantage. The best thing to do is answer every single question you can correctly. It's also a really good idea to answer every question. You are not given any negative points for not getting a question right. So even if you can get it down to 50% chance between the 2 questions, that's probably the best for you. Okay. So what is on the SAT? These are the different sections that are on the SAT. For the reading and writing, it breaks down to 4 different types of questions. And if you can learn to recognize and understand what these different types of questions that we're going to ask you are, rather than just going in there blind and not really knowing in general what is going to be asked of you, it's really going to help you focus and be prepared for the test better. So we're going to ask you about information and ideas, craft and structure, explanation of ideas, and standard English convention. So the only part that's really going to be about grammar, punctuation, and vocabulary is that last section. And I'm going to give you examples of 2 of these content domains in a second here for the reading and writing, but they are all explained really nicely and in a lot of detail on our official learning resources, which I'm going to share later. For math, it's a little bit more straightforward. You need to know algebra, problem solving and data analysis, and geometry and trigonometry. There's a really clear set of skills that are going to be tested on the math. And if there's any that you're not fluent and comfortable with, you can focus on those specifically. So for example, when I was in high school, I did not have an easy time understanding polynomials. And I didn't really understand the quadratic formula. I struggled. Not very, very easy for me. So if I'm going to take the SAT again, I'm not going to worry about geometry and trigonometry, and I'm not going to worry about linear equations. I don't need to take a bunch of questions and practice on that. I understand it. What I need to do is focus on the parts of math that I did not understand and get better at those and to really understand what they are so that when those questions come up on the SAT, I'm not going to be flummoxed. Okay? So let's take a look just real quickly before I show you exactly what the SAT app looks like. 2 of these reading and writing skills to just give you a little bit of an example. And there's going to be all kinds of practices you can take to get better at this. But for the first one, information and ideas, that breaks down to 3 types of questions. Central ideas and details. We're going to show you a text and we're going to say, what's the big idea here? Explain to us what's the main piece of information that's trying to be communicated. Then there's going to be command of evidence, which is going to have you look really specifically at a text and pick out a piece of information from it based on what it's being given you. Sometimes that'll even be with graphs and data. Sometimes it's going to be a science text. It's not all going to just be poetry and novels. And then lastly, inference questions, which is like saying, based on what you've read here, what is probably true? So these are the 3 types of questions that come under information and ideas. And once you see a bunch of examples of this, you'll be able to identify like, okay, I can see which type of question this is. This is very similar to questions I've been asked in the future. It'll make it all seem much more familiar to you. You'll be much more comfortable when you're not only just seeing a question, but you're seeing a specific type of question with a specific type of ask. So I'll give you an example. This is a question here that I'm not going to make you guess about it, but this is a command of evidence. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to have you figure out what the passage is trying to communicate. This is a passage, is a short passage about world music, and they want to know which finding about Mabakanga and Kwanho, which are two types of world music, if true, would most directly support Zhang's claim. So let's not get super into this question, but what I want to show to you is a couple of things. First of all, every reading and writing question on the SAT is going to be about this length. You'll be able to see the entire text. They're not that long. You'll be able to see the question, and you'll be able to see the answer choices all at once on your screen, which is really nice. In the past, the SAT would have long text, and you'd have to read sometimes for several pages, whereas now every question, one question has one text with it that's relatively short. But as you get more comfortable, you'll figure out, like, okay, this is not a totally new type of question. This is a specific type of question that we repeat over and over and over again on the SAT. It's a command of evidence question. Okay. Another example is craft and structure, which are all types of questions about testing your ability to show if you go your ability to understand how the author is writing and why they're writing the text in the way that they are. So this is about the style of the reading passage that you're reading. So it's going to be about specific words, and this is one where there will be some really specific vocabulary in the English language that we will want you to know. There's going to be questions about the structure. Why is this sentence the first sentence? Why is this the third sentence? Which one is the summary sentence? Why is there this short descriptive sentence here? Like, what is going on in this text in terms of its style? And then lastly, there'll be questions that are cross-text connections, where we'll ask you to compare two texts and see what's similar and what's different with them. And to give you an example of what that actually looks like, here is a question where we highlight this fourth sentence in this text, and we want you to say, what function, what purpose is this sentence doing for the entire text? So that is very much a, why is this written in the way that it is? Why is it in this order? And why does it look this way? Okay. So as you do more and more of those, you'll get a better sense of what types of questions are being asked. I'm not going to go into the math section as much because I want to take a look at everything else, but this is a good beginning to show you that understanding the types of questions is going to help make this test a lot easier for you if you spend some time with it. So the next thing we need to go on is to show you how Blue Book works. So I'm going to get out of my my presentation right now, and I'm going to load this up on my computer. So I go to my apps here, and you can download this off of Google or off of any place that you download apps into your computer. I'm going to open up Blue Book. Blue Book is the application that you use to both practice for the SAT and for the PSAT, and where you'll actually take it on the day of the test. You will go in to the test center with your own computer or tablet, and you will take the test on that. You will have been practicing it for that whole time. So I'm going to sign in to show you what it looks like. You will use a student account. You can do this right now, and you can both sign up for the test. Now, did I forget my password? Uh-oh. Okay, cool. So I've signed in here, and I have two things that I can do once I'm in. The first is a test preview, in which you can just take a look and see in general what the actual questions and answer sections look like. And then you've got full-length practice on the right. And a full-length practice is an entire test, just like the SAT. It's the exact length of it. It's exactly like you're there. So you can take it, get a score, and feel really, really comfortable with exactly what's going to be on the test. So let's take a look at the test preview first. This is where you're going to explore. So you're going to choose an SAT test. It's going to get it all ready for you. And you're going to get instructions, and you should read these instructions and be really comfortable with them before the day of the test, so that when you're there and you're sitting down, you don't need to read them again. It should all be really, really clear to you, and you should feel very familiar with this app by the time it comes to take the test. So here we are. This is what the reading and writing test looks like. this is what the questions are going to look like. They'll be on this left side here. And as I scroll through them, you can see they're all pretty short relative to how they used to be. And then you will have here on the right side the choices. And there's some great tools here. And this is why you're definitely going to want to take some time to explore it yourself. You can choose these questions, or you can choose which ones that you know are wrong and strike through them so that you won't come back to them later if in fact you want to return to the question later. If you do need to return to the question, you can always mark it later. Like, I haven't chosen the answer yet, so now I'm going to take a look at it later. Then we've got this great tool for highlighting and tools. Let's say I'm over here and I'm trying to understand this text and I want to mark it up like a Google Doc so that I feel more comfortable with it. I can highlight the word porous and I can add a comment. And this comment will say, I don't know the meaning of this word. Or you can go to the other question and you can say, highlight it, and you can give a little note and say, is this the main idea? Great little tool that you have here to help you organize your thoughts and your ideas about how the SAT is working. That's something that's very, very helpful and awesome to have, that you should feel more comfortable when you get to it. So once I have answered all of these questions, I can see which one I've answered, which ones I need to go back for a review. It's a really, really nice method so that you do not have to answer every question in order. Figure out a strategy. Is this something where you want to answer the difficult questions first? Do you want to answer the ones that you know all first? Which way do you want to approach it? What's the best strategy for you? You can build and work on this strategy as you're practicing for the test. So that was the English reading and writing section, just to give you some comfort with it. Now we're going to go to the math section. Here are instructions about exactly how to put in the answers when they're not multiple choice, when you actually have to write in the answer. They're very specific, so you should learn these and understand them before you come in and take the test. So here I am in the math section. Two tools that I want to show you that you should be comfortable with before you come and sit down on the test day, and that is the calculator and the reference chart. The calculator is a fantastic tool. It is a fully digital calculator. What am I trying to think of? A graphing calculator. It has all types of what we say in English, bells and whistles. You can do trigonomic functions. You can do statistics. There's so much stuff on here that you don't even need, but we're providing it for you anyways. But you want to know what you do have in your fingertips before you come, because it actually really, really help you out. And the example I always give is the intersection point of two linear equations. This is not something that you need to figure out on your own. So let's say 3x plus 2 and 5x plus, I'm so bad at this, plus 5. Does this work? Did I do 2? 5x plus 5. No, what am I? Oh, maybe I did the wrong x here. 5x. There we go. Plus, oops, plus 5. Great. So I've got two linear equations, and look, I've got them right here on my graphing calculator, and then I can zoom in and see exactly at which point they intersect, which is very, very helpful for me if this question comes up. So I'll actually point this up here. So there are so many tools, and there's it can be a little bit even tricky how exactly this calculator works. You want to come in here and practice with it and get comfortable with it and know how it works, so that, delete all, so that, look at all this stuff, so that you are ready when the day of the test comes, okay? Really learn how this calculator works. Also, make sure that you know what is on this reference sheet. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can move it around, but you do not need to remember every single one of these geometric relationships, because we're going to provide them to you. It's not something that you need to have rote memorized, but it is important that you know which ones are here for it, okay? So get comfortable, use this calculator, do these questions, understand how you put in the answers, figure out how to do the marking for review if you need it, figure out a strategy that's the best for you for what order you want to answer those questions, okay? So that's the first part. You will then do that, and you will have good preparation for exactly what the test looks like. Then you can go in and do a full practice test. And a full practice test is exactly what it sounds like. You will have the option of all 6 full-length tests, and these are identical to a real exam test. I'm not going to go into it because it looks exactly the same. The only thing that's different is that it has a timer. So you will actually be limited in the amount of time that you have to answer each one of these questions. And then once you do that, you will be given a score, which is fantastic because it is exactly like the score that you'll receive on the test. So let's say I want to go to the University of Georgia, and the top 25% of students who are admitted to the University of Georgia get a 1400 on the SAT. Okay, 1400 is my goal. So let me take a practice test and let's see where I'm at. How many points away am I from 1400? And then how much more do I need to practice to be able to get there? So you can take a full length test and then you can go to mypractice.collegeboard.org and you can see your scores. So here are a few SAT scores that I've taken. Okay, and you can see here what my score is for each section, so I can get a lot of really good details about that. And then you can actually go in and look at the details and see exactly each question, how I got them right, which ones I got wrong, incorrect answers. I can take a look, and it'll in each one that I click on here, let's go to one of the ones I got wrong. Oh, they're all in the math section. If you click on it, it'll give you a really nice detailed explanation of exactly why you got the question wrong. This stuff is solid gold. It's going to help you so much get a better understanding of what it is that you still need to learn. You can also download a score report. And this will give you a really nice breakdown of how you've done on your practice, okay? So I'm going to review all of these questions. I'm going to see which ones I've gotten wrong. And as I kind of reflect and take a look at all of them, it turns out it becomes very clear to me I need to work on my advanced algebra. So then I'm going to do the third step, which is I'm going to go to Khan Academy. And Khan Academy is our official partner. This is the place where you can go for free, world-class digital SAT practice. This is the #1 place that you should go. And if you go, you will see, you can search here for digital SAT. It'll come up as an option, along with lots of other stuff. What is all this stuff? Let's see, digital SAT, reading and writing, test prep. Okay, so now I've got all of the sections for the SAT, both the math and the reading and writing, broken down into foundational, medium, and advanced topics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into advanced math, because advanced math, because that's where I was having some problems. And I'm going to look at, let's see here. Aha, perfect. Factoring quadratic and polynomial expressions. I can go into this lesson and I can be given a nice introduction with videos. I can get a really good start from the beginning and remember how I'm learning all this and what's all involved with quadratic formulas and polynomial expressions, because it's been a long time. Then I can do a bunch of quizzes to get better at it. And so rather than just taking a bunch of SATs again and again and again and doing hundreds of questions in a book, I'm going to be smarter than that. I'm going to be more strategic. I'm going to focus specifically on the things that I need to. Not to toot my own horn, but if you look at this practice test that I took, if you took this practice test I took back in 2022, I got all of the, do I have it right here? I got all of the reading and writing questions right. I got a perfect score. Woohoo! I don't need to do any reading and writing questions. I don't need to spend any time doing that. That's not what I want to focus on. I need to focus on how poorly I did in the math section. So all of my time that I'm on the Khan Academy is going to be spent really identifying and working on these math questions to make sure that I am covering the topics that I didn't understand the first time around when I was in high school, okay? So that is the best use of your time. Do a test preview so you understand exactly how Blue Book works. Take a full-length practice test to see where you are. Review all of your questions that you've gotten incorrect on mypractice.sat so that you get a really good sense of what the skills and the domains that you specifically need to focus on are. Identify them, understand, know what you don't know, and then go to Khan Academy to practice each of them specifically. Once you've done that and you feel like you've really gotten a better sense of what it is that you need to do, then you can go and take the next practice test and see if, in fact, you have improved on those specific skills, okay? Please do not take 15 SAT practice tests and just take them without thinking about critically about what it is that you need to learn and what you need to do. The more that you can think about what you don't know, the better that you will do overall. And that is my best piece of advice, okay? So you have all of these tools at your disposal to help you practice. They are all free, and you should feel as ready as you want to be before you take this test. And you should have a pretty good idea of what score you're going to get before you even come to the test center on the day of the test. It should not really be a surprise for you if you practice all of this. The one thing that will be a surprise is how much better you're able to do as time passes, okay? So that's my general spiel about everything that we have for you for practicing for the SAT. I'm happy to now take questions and go into lots more detail about exactly how to study for this and anything else that you may have questions on.
Perfect. Thank you, Matthew, so much. I think it looks really nice because you actually explained it with a lot of examples. So I'm more than sure that the students will get even more excited that they will address us even more questions. Okay, then let's start with those that we've got before this webinar. So we've had some students that pre-registered for this event. And one of the first one is how to tackle stress during the test.
That's a great question. Tackling stress. So one thing that you should realize is nothing that you're going to see on this test is nothing that is going to be a surprise. It'll be everything that you should feel more and more comfortable with. So it's going to be your own computer. This is going to be your own practice that you've been doing for a lot of time, hopefully, before you've taken the test. Nothing about this should be a surprise other than the room that you're in. But hopefully you'll be able to take it at your own school or someplace that's in your own town to be able to do that. So the more that you can prepare for the actual content of the test, the less stressful, hopefully, the other parts of it will be. The other thing that you need to remember is that the SAT is one part of your application to universities in the United States. And so it's not the only thing that matters. If you have the opportunity to take the SAT only one time and you don't do great on it, it is up to you. It is totally your decision whether or not you want to submit that score. If it helps your application, if it makes you look good, and if it either confirms or exceeds your score, use it. If it doesn't, if you did really, really poorly, submit it. It's not for a lot of these places. A lot of the universities don't require it. It's something that they recommend, but it's not absolutely required. So it is still very much up to you. We want this to be as least stressful and high stakes as possible. But you should also, like I said just a little bit earlier, you should have a pretty good idea of how you're going to do before you even get in there. So it really shouldn't be too much of a surprise for you. And as long as something terrible doesn't happen on the day of the test, which probably won't, then it should be pretty straightforward about how this is going. And then you should be able to just do well, get your official score, and then use it for the universities that you're applying to.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matthew, for answering that. Okay, the next question. How can we be sure about an answer on the reading section?
So one of the best ways to prepare for it is to get good at looking at the 4 choices and narrowing them down. So we have a tool in there to help you select wrong answers. And if you can get it down to at least a 50% chance, that's really, really going to help you. The other thing to make you, to help sure that you're answering these questions correctly is to, like I was saying earlier, to understand what the type of question there are. There's only a few different types, maybe like 10 or 15 types of questions on the SAT. Every time that you look at a reading and writing question, your first thing that should come to your mind is, oh, this is a words and context question. Oh, this is a main ideas question. Because once you do that, you already kind of understand what the question is asking you. And so all you're really needing to worry about is the specifics of that text. And the more that you can recognize those things, the less unfamiliar and the less challenging it becomes, because it's basically the same type of question over and over again. That would be my advice in that regard.
Okay, good. Matthew, I think we've lost your camera. I think now it's good. Now you should be good. Okay, there we are. Okay, the next question. How can I improve my score in 1 week? Is it possible to improve my score in such a restricted time?
Now that very much depends on a student. That's probably, it would also depend on how much it is that you're studying and looking. Like I said, if I only had 1 week to practice, what I would do is I would do exactly what I said. I would take the test preview, and then I would take a full length test, and I would say like, okay, that's probably going to be very close to what it is my score. But maybe there is 1 or 2 skills very specific. I do great on everything, but there's like 1 or 2 things that every time that question came around, I just didn't understand it. But maybe it's something that you can fix. You know, like, what if this entire time that I was in high school, I just got the equation for the Pythagorean theorem wrong, and I was confusing it with something else, like right angles or something. If it's a simple thing that I can just fix and then I can learn about it, that I like, oh, okay, I didn't understand that a right angle uses the Pythagorean theorem. Now I understand it. And then if a bunch of those questions come up, then maybe that's going to be something that before I was getting a low score, but now I'm getting a much better score. So it is possible that there are specific skills that you can improve on that are really going to really help your score. But overall, and there is a little bit of a limit. You know, this is not, there's no shortcuts or magic tricks to this. This test is really nicely designed to judge everything that you've learned in high school in a really general way. So it's really hard to go from being a regular high school student to an excellent high school student in 1 week. Think about it that way. This is a very general overview of everything that is that you've done in high school. It's not really that likely that it's something that you can easily fix or find some trick to get around.
That totally makes sense. The next question, how much time is needed to fully prepare for the SAT as a foreign student to get maximum score?
So luckily, the best way to practice for the SAT is what you've already been doing, which is being a good student in high school. We're not testing you on things that aren't relevant to being in high school. It's meant to be a reflection really closely to the most important parts of being in high school. So you've already done most of the hard work. This is just trying to review those things. So the best way to practice is to think about the parts of this that maybe you didn't do so well in high school, and then to focus on those specifically. There is some specific number that we have through our research about how much better you can get your score based on specific practicing. But that's not really a guarantee, and it also depends on not only how long you practice, but how well you practice. And when I say well, that's about thinking critically, not just answering a bunch of questions and go, okay, I got that question wrong. I got this question right. It's about saying, why did I get this question wrong? What is it about the answer choices that tripped me up? If you can really explain to yourself and understand yourself what is that it made you right or made wrong, that's going to be a lot better use of your time than just doing a bunch of practice tests. Any amount, if you have 1 hour and you use that 1 hour to just understand how Blue Book as a testing application works, and you understand how the calculator works, and you understand how to use the observation tool, that is the best use of your 1 hour time. And you'll probably do a little bit better, probably the most better that you could do based on that 1 hour time than you would in any other way. So at the very least, do not just take the SAT without ever having looked at Blue Book or opened it or used the test preview. If you do nothing else, take that. If you do only 2 things and you only have 3 hours to study for the SAT, take 1 practice test so you can just feel what it feels like, how long it is, what are the types of questions that come up. Just get just a general understanding of that. And then if you have 10 hours, take a practice test, look at the review, and at least get an understanding of what is the questions the types of questions that you're having the most trouble with, or get a general understanding of what are the types of questions that are being asked. If you have a full 40-hour week to study for the SAT, then take a practice test, learn those skills that you need to focus on, review the most critical ones in Khan Academy, take another practice test, and etc. So the more time you have, the more things that you can do. But at the bare minimum, you should just have a familiarity of what the SAT test looks like and feels like.
Great advice. Okay, and the next question. Is it true that there is a higher chance to score better on October SAT than any other month?
No, that is not true at all. Every single SAT test, we use the best people in the business. They are all exactly the same. Not only that, when I took the SAT test a long, long time ago, and it was on paper, that was the same difficulty of the test as it is now in Armenia or in the Ukraine or anywhere else that I would take it. It's identical. We make sure we spend thousands and thousands of hours making sure that each test is exactly the same in a lot of different ways. It's a long way of saying anytime that you take the test, it's going to be the exact same level of difficulty, and you will get the same score then than you will at any other time.
Okay. How much does my SAT score impact my college application? I mean, I can also jump on that, but I think you can also share more on this.
Sure. So that of course we could both, me and Alina could both say it depends. That's the easy answer for it. But it is a lot of different things that are going to depend on college that you can actually know about. So if you use our free search tool for universities called Big Future, or you use a lot of our other search tools that are out there for universities, you can look and see pretty clearly the level of, or the band of scores that are good for a university. So let's say that you want to apply to a school and the top 25% of students, the highest scoring students, only get like a 1200 on the SAT. Well, if you're going to submit a 1500, then you're going to be better than almost every single student that's there. And so that's going to be really, really a big factor. And the university is going to say, wow, we really want to improve our SAT score. We really want this student to come. This student is very competitive relative to the rest of our students. And so this SAT is going to mean a lot because it's a really, really good part of their application. But think about another university. You want to apply to one of the most prestigious universities in the United States, like Duke or like Rice. You need to look at their level of SAT scores, and you're basically like, if you want to score in the middle of it, you need to at least do that. And you need to think of it like, if you're not giving an SAT score that's better than the majority of the students that are applying, then you need to have other parts of your application that are helping support that. If you are in the lowest 25% of SAT scores, then that could be something that would actually be detracting from you, and that you would need to show that you had other things like AP courses or extracurricular to help that beef that up. So it really depends. Each college is like, what are the other average scores that students are using to get in? If you're in the middle of the pack, then that's great. Submit your answers so that the school knows that you're ready to be with all the other students. If the score is much better than all that, then that could be a really positive factor for your application. And if your SAT is a lot lower than the score that's there, it's not only that I wouldn't submit my score to SAT, I would think seriously about applying to that university, because the SAT is a really good reflection of the level of difficulty for that school, and it may not be a good fit for you, because the SAT is a reflection of your high school performance overall, and so it might be a really, really challenging and ultimately not a good place for you to go.
Okay, that's great. I can also add that SAT is mostly also considered in your app as you are applying for your financial aid. That would also somehow increase the chances to get it. And yes, definitely you should do more research on that, and definitely you should evaluate your application with your Education USA advisor if that's possible. But yes, that can also increases your chances. Good. We move to the questions that we got here in our comment section from our live viewers, and there are a bunch of them. I really hope we'll finish it in 30 minutes at least. Okay, so the first one, is it possible to improve SAT in a month from 990 to 1,400? Are there any tips for it? I think you've specified some of them, but maybe if you want to add something here.
Yeah. Now, what I would do for you is I would take a practice SAT test and I would see what your score is. I'm guessing that your score was a 990. And then spend a week or two really practicing using the methods that I spoke about, using the Khan Academy, using the My Practice to really focus on those questions. Give yourself a week or two to really practice, and then take another test. I'll kind of show you what your potential progress is in 1 week, in 2 weeks, something like that. Based on my just general, what I've seen out there and the way that the SAT works, I do not have a lot of confidence that you will be able to improve your score 400 points. Unless you've never taken the SAT before and you just weren't familiar with it, and maybe you were sleepy or distracted and you just, that 990 is not a reflection of you as a student, then that'd be one thing. But if you tried really hard and that is an accurate reflection of you as a student, unfortunately, I do not think that in 1 month that it's realistic that you would be able to raise your score by 400 points.
That totally makes sense. Okay, we move to the next question. How to improve my SAT? Okay, I think we also discussed that from 1,470. That's a good score.
I'd like to address this though, because it is a little bit different of a situation.
Yeah, definitely.
With this student, I really like that she chose both of your reading and your math score. I can look at this really quickly and say that your math's great. Don't spend any more time on your math. It looks like the reading is the part that you need to focus on and get a little bit more of the score for that. And what I would do, if you haven't done this already, is to, again, really break down the types of questions that we're asking you on the reading section so that you can get a better sense of exactly what types of questions are going to be coming up to be able to get your reading. Do not just study a list of vocabulary in English. That's not going to help you. If anything, what you should be doing in this last bit of practicing for the reading before the 5th of October is just be reading a lot of different types of texts. You should be looking at the New York Times. You should be looking at the New Yorker magazine. You should be reading some Emily Dickinson poetry. Try to expose yourself to a lot of different types of texts in English so that they're all just a little bit more familiar to you, because they're all going to come up on the SAT. And it looks like the place where you have the most opportunity to improve quickly is in the reading section.
Yeah. Thank you. The next question, is it possible to get into US universities with full ride scholarship without SAT scores?
We're going to both say, Alina, right? We're going to say it depends, but that it's not very likely. SAT scores, a lot of the highest universities that do provide a lot of financial aid, they need to see the tippy top of everything, because you are not only competing with American students, you're competing with students from China and India. And let me tell you, those countries are full of the smartest kids there are. So everything is competitive. Everything is probably going to need an SAT score. And it's not only about getting a full ride, and it's not only about not having an SAT, it is about having both, because everyone is competing for the same pot. So I would say it's probably not possible, but maybe you have invented a rocket ship that goes to Mars that uses nothing but cans from your kitchen. Then yes, you can get a full ride scholarship, but it really, really depends. But unless you have something about you that, like, you're already in the news, I would doubt that without a really, really strong SAT score that you could get a full ride. Do you agree with me, Alina?
I do agree. I also want to add on the fact that there are some universities that adopted the test optional policy, and maybe for them it's not mandatory to have the SAT, but that's the part that the student has to research, and that's the part where the student needs to contact the admission commission and to ask, or the financial office. But I wouldn't say that this is a full ride scholarship. Maybe that's going to be a partial scholarship. So it's going to be definitely hard to get a full ride scholarship. We know a lot of cases when even with SAT, the students wouldn't take a full ride scholarship. So it definitely depends. Okay, so I think we described this one. Okay, the next question. Please share more tips on how to get a higher score. I think you've shared some of them, but I don't know. You want to add something else?
Something that I would add about it would be talk to somebody else or talk to a teacher about the skills that you are working on and the skills that you need. There's something about talking with words to another person that really helps you process and understand anything in this world. If I'm practicing and I realize, like, okay, I really need to understand main idea more, go talk to your English teacher about what that means, and then kind of talk through it. Explain to them what are the things that have made it difficult or challenging for you, the things that you're struggling with. You'll find that that's a better way to understand analytically what it is that you're still struggling with than just looking at it on a piece of page and thinking it silently to yourself. So that's just one more tip that I would have.
That's great. Okay, the next question. Let me see. There are a bunch of them. Okay, and that's a good review, I think, for you. Hello, Matthew. I'm Jamil from Azerbaijan. I'd like to thank you for the 2 new SAT practice tests on Blue Book. They have greatly helped me pass the exam with flying colors.
Oh, that's great. Jamil, I'll also say to you, being in Azerbaijan, I was in Azerbaijan in May, and I know that many students have struggled trying to find a place to take the SAT because it's very popular. We have been working really hard to try to open up new spaces so that there's more places, and also not only in Baku, but also in other cities to make it a little bit easier for you. But I'm so glad that that extra hat practice helped you.
Perfect. Okay. Is it possible to pass SAT exam in 2 years with high score? And what book sources would you recommend? I think you already recommended some books, but yeah.
Actually, there's one more thing I will actually recommend. So we do, even though the test is now digital and most of our resources are all digital, all online, and all free, sometimes students want a little bit extra, thing that they can use. And so what I would recommend for that is we do have, and hopefully you can get this off of Amazon, but I'm going to share my screen just so you can see what it actually looks like. There is, and I actually use this to help me understand better the best ways to provide practice for this test. We do have an official SAT study guide, and it's a print book, and you can get it on, let me see if this works here. I'm going to switch these views around. How do I do this? I know how to do this. There we go. This is the official digital SAT study guide. So this is a really, really nice book that has a really good overview of all of those skills and domains that I was talking about, an understanding of how the test works and things like that. It's also got a lot of great practice questions. If you are someone who, like me, still loves paper books, physical paper books, this is something that you can buy. I don't know, any limits on different countries, whether you get it in, but I would not put it past Amazon to be able to provide this to you. So that would be my official paper study guide if I had to recommend one.
Perfect. Okay. The next question. Will I be able to use paper and pen on the SAT?
Great question. Yeah, not a pen, but you will have scratch paper provided by the test center and a pencil. So if you're working on the math problems, you will have something that you can actually work on in your hand to help you think through it and understand it. You don't need to bring your own stuff. They will be provided by the test center.
Okay, sounds great. Hi, can I use my own graphic calculator during the exam?
You certainly can use your own graphing calculator. There is a specific list of approved graphing calculators. You can just look at that online. If you go to Google, you can type in official calculators for SAT exam, and it'll give you that whole list. And make sure that it's the right one, so when you go to the test center, they won't give you a hard time.
Perfect, thank you. Can I use SAT for Europe universities?
You sure can. Universities all over the world, I think more like 100 countries accept SAT scores, and increasingly so. So universities in the UK, Holland, Spain, Italy, they're all using SAT scores. They are also using it along with other things. So like AP scores for AP courses that you may take, that's also really important. Or if you're in an IB program, that could be important. But many, many universities take SAT as well and may have a minimum required score that they need. So what I would do is, again, look at the specific scores, see their admissions policies, and see what it is that they actually are requiring for SAT.
Perfect. Will there be a calculator information about trigonometry or geometry on the real SAT test?
Yes. So both of those tools that I showed you are exactly the same on the real test.
Perfect. As you have perfect scores on reading, what is your strategy to learn lots of words? And I think you already said about reading.
Yeah, so again, please do not get a big stack of cards with words on it and just learn all the words. Do not have just a big vocabulary list and just go through all the vocabulary. That is not what the SAT test is about. The SAT is about reading English language things in all different types of sources. So again, read as much as you possibly can from different things. Read an article about volcanoes. Read an article about fabric on the Silk Road. As much as you can be really diverse about the types of things that you're reading and the different size sources, the genres, the speakers, all those things, that's all going to help you be prepared for the diversity of reading. The reason why I did well on the reading section of the SAT is that I already went to college, and I had courses in everything from astronomy to Arabic poetry, and I read a million different things from a million different places. And so with all different types of written English,
Okay, thank you. The
not
next
just
question.
difficult words.
Okay. What is the correlation between Blue Book test results and actual official test results? Matthew, can you hear us?
The exact same.
Okay, good.
The exact same. So the score that you get when you take a practice test should be exactly the same. The only difference is that you're going to be sitting in your house versus sitting in a test center. But the actual content that we give you is identical.
Okay. We have here a detailed question. So I think, yeah,
I saw this before. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about this, Natalie, is that there are specific instructions that I showed you very quickly, but then I moved away from. When you open the test preview, it will show you exactly how to write decimals in the math section where you actually have to put them in. It'll tell you exactly how many spaces that you have, exactly how to write it. It'll be crystal clear to you. And I recommend that you understand exactly how to do that before the day of the test. Don't read those instructions on the day of the test. Your mind is already going to be busy with other things. You should already understand exactly how to write those in. The specific instructions are there. How to write fractions, how to write decimals. It'll be very clear when you open up the test preview.
Okay, perfect. Could we get the sources where we can practice for the test for free? And I think you've shared already them.
Sure.
Okay.
If I popped it in the chat, will that be helpful?
Yeah, sure. I think we can also share that in the chat. Definitely, that should be very helpful.
Okay, cool.
The next one,
So
which one I should focus on more, math or reading, writing?
Nazarene, you won't know that until you take a practice test and see what your score is. And then you see which one you need to do the better at. And then sometimes, depending on the program, if you're applying to an engineering program or if you're applying to an English literature program, they might want one score to be higher than another. So it really depends. And you won't know that until you've both taken a test to see where you're at and then looked at specific universities that you're interested in applying at to see what they're asking for.
Mm-hmm. Good. The next one, can a very high SAT score balance low amount of extracurricular activities when applying for the most prestigious US universities? You can say it here, and I can also add something at the end.
It can. It depends. If you don't do a lot of extracurricular activities, there's a lot of reasons why that can be. If the answer why you haven't been able to take a lot of extracurricular activities is because you need to work after school to support your family, that's a great reason. And that's something that a university is going to understand and not punish you for. If you haven't done a lot of extracurricular activities because you are in a million classes and you've gotten perfect A's and you're also working as like a tutor after school, that's a great reason to have an not have extracurricular activities. We're going to judge you based on your circumstance. But if your school had a bunch of great extracurricular activities and you had a lot of free time and you just didn't take them because you thought that your SAT score would be good enough for you, depending on the university, they might not be too impressed by that.
I totally agree. I want to add here that you guys already know that the US universities, they approach the holistic review of their application. So definitely it shouldn't be like crucial to have all the extracurricular activities. Definitely you should consider that they might pay attention to your statement of purpose or to your letters of recommendation or to your GPA or maybe some other achievements that you've highlighted in your application. So yes, I also think, and I agree with Matthew, that it shouldn't be a problem, but you can give some more explanation on why specifically you didn't manage to have so many extracurricular activities. You can focus on less of them, but do them like quality extracurricular activities, not a lot of them, but less of them, more dedicated. So that's kind of my advice in that.
I totally agree.
One more. What is the acceptable difference between reading and math scores for university entrance purposes?
That really depends. Usually they're going to want they want to get a good score in both, because for most universities, even if you're going to be a science major, even if you're going to be an arts major or an art history major, you still need to be a strong student overall. And it's not very common that a student or a school is going to be interested in a student that's like perfect in one and not great in the other. They want to see strong students overall. So even though there's not a great score, not a great rule of thumb for this, it's not common that a school is going to going to be fine with you having like a terrible score in one and not in the other. They want to see strong students overall.
Okay, perfect. One of the similar questions, and I really want to answer that, which score do the university usually prefer? I don't know if you, Matthew, want to add on that, and I can also add mine.
Sure. It's not a mystery, and it's not a secret. Every university says very clearly what they're looking for. And you just got to go to their website and look.
Yeah, that's what I actually wanted to say, that you should go on the university website. I think on the College Board, you can also view the university. You can check at the university what are the minimum requirements for a specific standardized test or a language proficient test. So yeah, you have there all the information, and you should know what they prefer specifically. So I think we're done with all the questions. Many of them are similar, guys. So I think Matthew did his best to answer all of them in details. Okay, one more here from Mano. What should I do?
Can I, Elena? I just want to, based on that last question, I'd love to just show something. This is the way that you can easily look for the SAT scores for different universities.
Sure.
Great. So if you just type in any university that you're looking for and you type in Big Future, which is the name of our free college search tool, you can then pull this up. So I'm going to share this so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. I went to Google and I typed in Big Future, Trinity University. Trinity University is a university in Texas that in my hometown. I go to here, it's going to give me all kinds of information about this university. How much does it cost to go there? What percentage of people graduate? But then right here, SAT range. If you guys can see that, not a mystery. If I want to go to Trinity University in Texas, I need to probably get a score between a 1290 and a 1440. I believe that is the middle range. So the middle 50% of students get some score on this range. That'll give you a really good window of the type of place that you want to go. So if you want to go to the University of St. Louis, they'll tell you exactly what the range is. If you want to go to UCLA, it'll tell you exactly what the range is, and it'll take away all the mystery. Be very clear to you what you need to be shooting for. And of course, you want to end towards the high range. The better that you can get away from the middle of the student, the better that SAT score is going to help your application rather than being something you just need.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Okay, so I don't know if we answered to this one. What should I do to improve my score? And I think we've got this question a lot of times. But yes, you can answer it one more time if it's possible, maybe.
Yep. Depends on the types of skills that it is that you need to go. You should get away from thinking about the actual score. You should be thinking more about which skills have I mastered. If I get a question about words and context, do I always get it right? Cool, then I don't need to worry about that anymore. I need to be focusing on polynomial expressions. And then once you've improved those specific skills, the score will take care of itself.
Okay, Fakria specified here that we didn't answer all the question. I will put her once again in the screen, and I think you answered that, but yes, definitely, Fakria, no problem, can do that once more.
I've shared both the Khan Academy link,
right.
You can see at 8:57, and then I shared Blue Book at 9 a.m.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you, guys. I mean, a lot of questions, and I think Matthew responded them in a really, really short time and very, very, very efficient way. Thank you so much, Matthew. I really hope that you guys will succeed with your test in case if you are taking it now in October. I'm really excited for you to have good results, and I really hope that this webinar helped you more to get more understanding on what you need to pay attention during your test. I also want to add that we will have additional webinars focused on CSS Profile Big Future app, because Matthew specified it a lot of times during this webinar, and also about the advanced placement exam. So I think that's also super interesting, and that's also super relevant to those students who are now in the process of applying to US universities, specifically this fall. So maybe, yes, if you're interested, please join us. You can find all this information on our website. And if you need more details, let us know. You have our email, our Telegram channel, a bunch of our social media channels. Matthew, I want to thank you once again. See you at our next webinar. I am super excited and I'm super thrilled that you have participated. I'm more than sure that the next ones are going to be same interest.
Thank you so much for having me. You put this together. This app that we've been using to present this is awesome. It's so great to see the questions nice and clear up on here. So thank you so much for having me. This is a real pleasure.
Thank you, guys. I wish you a great evening and subscribe for our next event. Thank you very, very much for following us today.